we go. Make sure that's on there. Okay. You want to join us? And anyone who has questions online too, feel free to pop them in. Anyone who wants to join and listen in, do grab a seat. My name is Myri. I run Lighthouse Edinburgh's Radical Bookshop, and it is such a joy and a privilege to have the wonderful Vashti Harrison with us today. I'm just going to say a few things about all of the many things that she has done. She is the New York Times bestselling creator of Big, which was awarded the 2024 Caldecott Medal, a Coretta Scott King Book Award Author Honor, and a Coretta Scott King Book Award Illustrator Honor, in addition to being a National Book Award finalist. Vashti is the New York Times #1 bestselling creator of Little Leaders, Little Dreamers, and Little Legends, and the illustrator of Lupita Nyong'o's Sulwe, for which she received the Coretta Scott King Book Award Illustrator Honor. Also, Matthew A. Cherry's Hair Love, Andrea Beaty's I Love You Like Yellow, which is a little board book and is one of my absolute favorites. Oh, the book is such a joy. And Star, among others, a 2-time recipient of the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literary Work for Children. She lives in Brooklyn, New York, and it is such a privilege to have her here to talk about big-hearted storytelling with us. So I'm going to hand over to you. I have some Sharpies if we want to do some drawing. And I will just be behind you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm really happy to be able to share a little bit of the behind the scenes of making a book like this. So what I think I'll do is talk a little bit. I'll read the story, and then I'll do a drawing demonstration. How does that sound?
Woo! Yay!
So Big is my most recent book. It's my first piece of fiction that I've written. I've illustrated a number of picture books, including this one by Lupita, Nyong'o, and Hello Star. So I've gotten the chance to sort of learn the ropes of what it is to illustrate something in this scale. And in that process, I learned a lot about how I want to communicate through images. And I had this idea for Big a long time ago. It is a very personal story. It is very inspired by my own relationship with my body and just thinking about the way Black girls exist in this world. And I really wanted to tell this story through the pictures and communicate what this character is feeling through the illustrations and ask people to have empathy for her by pulling them in and asking them to feel what she is feeling. And you will see that based on how many words are actually in the book. So if you're okay with it, I'm going to read the story aloud. So this is Big, written and illustrated by me, Vashti Harrison. Once there was a girl with a big laugh and a big heart and very big dreams. Can you see what it says on her shirt there? It says, "Dream big." She learned her ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. She always said please and thank you, and even put away all her toys. At dinner, she ate all her food. "What a big girl you are," the adults would say, and it was good. She grew and learned and laughed and dreamed and grew and grew and grew, and it was good. Until it wasn't. So there aren't a whole lot of words in this book, so we just have to look closely at the pictures and try to feel what the character is feeling. So it looks like here she's trying on a tutu at the dress shop, and here it looks like she's with Santa, and Santa's saying, "You're a big girl, aren't you?" Here, looks like she's at school, feeling a little nervous or apprehensive. One day, something big happened. Looks like she's at the playground now. She's down here playing with her friends, and they're gonna go play on the baby swings, and they're saying, "I can't wait for the recital. I'm gonna be a rose. I'm gonna be a daisy." What's she saying? Oh no. Look, she's stuck. OMG. Ha ha ha. Whale. Moo. More like moose. And now she's saying, words on this page. Looks like her teacher is here. He's gonna try to help pull her out of the swing, but then they fell over and the swing broke. Her teacher saying, "Don't you think you're too big for that? You could have hurt someone. You should know better. Those are for the little kids. You're in big trouble." Made her feel small. The words stung and were hard to shake off. She began to feel not herself, out of place, exposed, judged, yet invisible. Everyone had advice, but that kind of hurt too. Looks like her dance instructor's here saying, that's no good. Try this instead. It looks like she's changing the color of her costume. I wonder why she would do that. And now she's saying, this is perfect for you. Do you think she thinks that's perfect? I don't think so. I usually ask young readers, can you tell what she's dressed as? She's dressed as a mountain, and her friends, they're all dressed as flowers. Now the instructor is saying, you're just too big. The flower costume won't fit. Where are you going? What did I say? Looks like she's running away. Not a lot of words left in this book. So we just have to look closely at the pictures and try to feel what she's feeling. Looks like she ran and found this little corner to hide in. And now, she looks a little bigger on the page. Looks like the color is sort of fading away. Now, just even bigger. Now we can really see it almost feels like she's stuck on this side of the page. So what do you think is going to happen if she keeps growing? Oh, what happened? She fell over. And now she's sort of struggling. Do you guys think she looks comfortable? Now, what do you think she's feeling now? Sad? So even in this sad moment, these people are walking by and they're saying things to her. This one's saying, aren't you too big to be crying? Have you tried being smaller? Why can't you just fit in? One day, she finally let it all out. You want to tell what she's doing? She's crying. It sort of looks like something's coming out in her tears. You see words. You see pink words and black words. So one day she finally let it all out and started to see things more clearly. It looks like she's found one of these words. You want to see which word she's holding? Big. Big. And which color is big? It's pink, right? That's interesting. It's pink, it's not black. She started to see things more clearly. She decided to make more space for herself. Now it looks like she's found something right here in the center of the page. She decided to make more space for herself. And was able to see a way out. Can you all see which way the way out is? It's like that way. It looks like with all this extra space, she was able to separate out these words. Looks like here on the left are those black words. Here on the right, some of those pink words. Now I wonder what's going to be on the other side. Looks like some of those people are there. She's saying something to them. She's saying, these are yours. They hurt me. Can you tell what she's handing to them? It's like those unkind words. But if you look closely, I see something in her other hand. It looks like she's keeping something for herself. Those pink words. These are yours. They hurt me. Not everyone understood or even listened. It's just a joke. It's not that serious. You're too sensitive. Some tried. I didn't mean to hurt you. But they still couldn't see. She was just a girl. I can help you change if you want. But what did she say? No, thank you. I like the way I am. And she was good. And a bunch of other things. Looks like she was imaginative, compassionate, gentle, smart, funny, sweet, kind, creative, and good. And she was good. That is the end of the story. You're okay with it? I'm going to read the author's note. In childhood, big is good. Big is impressive, aspirational. But somewhere along the way, the world begins to tell us something different. That being big is bad. That being big is undesirable. I was never a dancer, but I did get stuck in a swing when I was younger. Some of the older kids and I were playing on the baby swings, and I couldn't get out. I was the only one to get into trouble. My size indicated to adults that I was big enough to know better, even though I was still just a kid. I learned that day that my body did not fit. It did not belong, and adults no longer saw me as a little girl who could make innocent mistakes. While my experience was far less overt than the one in this book, the thoughts and words at work are the same. A child sits in the crosshairs of adultification bias and anti-fat bias. She is subjected to judgments and prejudices that are harmful and have lasting effects. Still, she finds enough self-love to return the words that were unkind and unhelpful. I hope she will stand as a guide to all who need to see her journey, especially those of us who are Black girls in big bodies. I remember thinking I couldn't wear pink, that it was too bright a color and might make me stand out. From an early age, I developed insecurities that told me it was safer to shrink into the background and try not to call attention to myself. I chose the color palette for this book to reject that old thinking. In color psychology, pink is associated with gentle love, tenderness, and nurturing. Pink flowers symbolize innocence, joy, playfulness, and happiness. These are all things this girl deserves. Her body is not a problem that needs fixing, and neither did mine that day on the playground. What needs fixing are the implicit biases we all hold. I wish I could give this girl a hug, the part of her that is me, and the part of her that might be you, and tell her that she is deserving of all the care and joy in the world, no matter what. So that is big. So I'm really grateful that I was able to put the author's note in this book, because I feel like that context is really important. I know, I don't know, a little bit of behind the scenes of the publishing world. Picture books in the UK tend to skew a lot younger, and I got some questions about whether or not this was the kind of story that belongs in a picture book, and I definitely considered that when I was writing it. I was thinking about these are very adult ideas that I'm having about an experiences that I had as a child. And I was scared. I didn't know if I wanted to, put something that I didn't want to sort of incite any sort of insecurities in any child. But I know that those things happen without me, with or without me, and I'd rather create a guide or just create a symbol or a mirror for anybody who needs this to be expressed to them, that their body is not a problem. And yeah, I feel very grateful that this book has gone far. Most recently, just saw the translations into Japanese and Japanese and Spanish and French, something. Oh, German. Yeah, publishing is that I feel very grateful. This book was awarded the Caldecott Medal, which is the highest award it can win in picture books in the United States. And most Caldecott winning books get translated into like every language. This book is not an easy book to translate because in English, big can have multiple meanings. Big can it can mean many different things depending on the way we use it, the context with which we use it, and it's been interesting to try to figure out the way to choose language in other languages to, correctly communicate what this book means and what the words mean. Also, there's a lot of art and a lot of text in the art, which is not easy because they asked me to redraw so many things. Like, oh no, sorry, I can't redraw this in Japanese and Chinese, so it's been a fascinating experience. But thank you so much for listening to that story. I really did want this to be a book that was told mostly through the art, and my first ideas for this book came from these little sketches I had drawn. If you're interested, you can come sit down if you'd like. The very first few drawings I ever did for this book were very tiny in a little notebook, and they're of the girl sort of curled up in this pose, and I wanted to capture this feeling of emotions being so big you don't know what to do with them, you feel stuck. And I knew pretty early on that it would be so powerful to show that character making more space for herself. And I drew her sort of pushing up the pages in this power pose, and I thought, this is going to be great. They're going to love this. And my publishers were like, this is great. We love it. We can't do that. We can't make the pages fold up in the middle of the book based on the way books are cut and bound. But we can make the pages fold out. We can do a double gatefold. So I had to go back and sort of rethink the story and figure out a way that I could get to this point that maybe she understands that she's in this book and can open it up. And if she understands that she's in a book, maybe I can move the words around and hand the words back to the people that said them. And so it became a quite meta project up to that point. And still, because of that, I didn't want there to be too many words in the book. But as an illustrator, I have lots of other things to help me communicate what's happening and what the character is feeling. I have lighting, I have texture, I have composition, and I have color. So I chose pretty early on to have a very, very limited color palette. Almost everything is in these shades of pink. And I chose pink to be the color that represents this girl, and not just because of ballet, but because of all of those other things about nurturing, about hair. And I start in this space where we see all these multiple colors of stars, and she's choosing the pink one. So when she's growing, we see she's growing into this bright version of this pink. To me, it represents her future and her potential. And when she's dancing, we see a very bright version of it. Most of the book is in this sort of paler color because she's still figuring things out. She's still figuring out who she is. And almost all of the people are a muted shade of that same pink on the same color palette. And I did that because I didn't want these people to be specific people. I wanted them to sort of represent society. It's not like bias and the sort of, the fat phobia she experiences. It's not about individual people being mean. It is about bias that our society holds. And I wanted to to create individual other characters would be too easy to make them the heroes and the villains of her story. So that's why everyone is sort of like a shadow of a person. It's not about a specific thing that this one person said. It's about the way we treat people and the way we use words with children. So yeah, if you guys would like, I can show you how I draw the character. I can give you
Yes, please.
So I'm going to do it start. Actually, I'm gonna do it this way.
Do you want me to take a few sheets and move
Yeah,
them?
that works.
Okay.
So, you can just do one. Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever I draw anything complex, I like to break it down into simple shapes. So we're going to use shapes that we all know how to draw. We're going to use a circle, a square, and some triangles. And we're going to use these as building blocks to draw this character. I want to draw her with her arms out and her leg out in a sort of ballet pose. Now, whenever I meet someone new and they tell me, I tell them that I'm an illustrator, the first thing that they say to me is, I can't draw. All I can draw is a stick figure. Every day. I wish I had $1 for every time someone told me. What those people don't know is that a stick figure is actually a very powerful tool to help you pose a character. So if I wanted to replicate that pose with my stick figure, I would just move some of the pieces around a little bit. And suddenly, the stick figure is doing something. It has a little bit of movement. And all I need is to add in all of the little features, and suddenly I know how to move this character around. So I'm going to recreate my pose bigger with my circle, my square. So my stick figure is doing this, right? So we're going to overlay our circle, our square, and our triangles over top of our stitches here. Suddenly, it's starting to look like a person. So we're going to do this again on a bigger page though, but I want you to know that's the approach I'm going for. Now I also want my character to be facing, I want there to be light coming down. Now I want to now think of my circle not just as a 2D circle, but as a 3-dimensional sphere. And so I'm going to imagine an imaginary vertical line going down the center of her face, an imaginary horizontal line going across. Now, if I treat this like a sphere, and I start to move those things around, you suddenly start to feel like this is a face looking in different directions. This one sort of looks like it's looking that way. That one sort of looks like it's looking that way. Isn't that funny how quickly that happens? It's because we're sort of hardwired to look for faces. So we're going to use these guides to help us figure out where our facial features are going to go. So I want my character facing that way. Something like that. So let's redo this on our clean sheet. I'm going to use a different color. Maybe I'll use a pencil so that I don't have to waste my paper. Nope. Yeah.
You can also do
Oh.
pale blue or dark blue or yellow or orange.
I will do pale blue. Thank you.
That's what
Thank you so much. Okay, so if you can't see it, trust that my sketch is going here. So I've got my circle, my square, and my triangles. Can you see that? Not really? Okay, so now face right on our crossed lines. And so I want my character to have her eyes closed. She's sort of at the end of her dance, totally feeling it. She's not worried about anybody else. She's just happy and free. So I also know that my ear sort of starts on the same line, that sort of cross line. So I'm going to start her ear over there. Her hair is going to be in two puffs. I'll come back to that later. And we'll just connect her arms using our triangles as a guide. And I'm going to draw in her waistband. Her skirt is my favorite part, so I'll leave that for last. I'm just going to lightly sketch in her legs. Some ballet slippers. Sometimes when I draw sideways, it ends up a little wonky, so forgive me if I can't quite see. Okay, and the way I draw her skirt is I make a nice wiggly line that goes around her. And I just connect the top points of those squiggles to her waistband. So now it starts to feel like she has this nice big wavy, flowy tutu. And then I go back and I add in other layers because there's layers and layers of this tulle here. Okay, and my other favorite part is adding in some of the details in the hair. So I like to use the sort of side of a pencil and go in with some squiggles. And then kind of carve out some shapes, choose some shapes to focus on to turn it into curls. And then I go in with a few little curly cues, and you just break up that larger shape with a few of these, and it starts to now feel like something that is full of attention. Okay, so I could do this for hours, but I'm also very open to answering any questions while I finish this, or any comments or thoughts. And I know we have some folks on the live stream, so I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
There's one online from Joy, who's asked, did you take the concept to the publisher before or after you had the first drawings?
I figured out the whole story and basically sketched out the entire, what we call a dummy, which is the whole book before I shared it with anybody. And I knew because this would be a very illustration heavy book, they wouldn't be able, I didn't want to share it with anybody until I had everything on the page to sort of communicate what I wanted. So I think if I had gone, like, I just sold a book on concept, so it happens that you can sell a book without any of the manuscript and maybe just a few drawings, but in this case, I needed to work out the story and get it to this place that literally that I wanted to share with other people. It started as this super personal thing. I didn't know I even wanted to do that, but I had everything pretty much figured out. And this spread where she's growing. This exact sketch is in my very first version of this book, so most of these things I've worked out from the very beginning. Anybody else?
There is another one online from
Okay.
Corey. Fire being shy. Has there been a different appetite in the US or the UK for a story about a little black girl?
I think appetite is an interesting choice of words. I think that publishing is much more open to stories focused on black and brown children, specifically black girls. I think in the United States, I saw a huge boost in my sales in 2020 after George Floyd died, and I know exactly why. I know people were feeling like they needed to do something, and so they chose to buy books. I hope they read those books, I really do. But I think that I feel very lucky to have entered into the publishing industry in the 2010s, the late 2010s. But that's because so much of that groundwork had been done by groups like We Need Diverse Books in the United States to create that sort of language around why it's important to have own voices, stories. But I don't know. There might be, at the same time, there has been some backlash to that. All of the, after George Floyd passed away, 4 of my books were on the New York Times bestsellers list at one time, which is unheard of. And 1 year later, almost all of those books were being targeted by book bans in the United States. So it's just this push and pull of guilt, regret, backlash, and maybe some progress, but progress is slow. So sometimes it can feel like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But I'm seeing really, really beautiful, incredible stories being shared and published every day. So I will be forever grateful for the people who are continuing to make work in these trying times. Do you have thoughts on that?
I would just say that I think what's been really helpful in the UK has been the work that CLPE has done, particularly with the research that Farah Sarouk has done in building out these conversations and doing surveys of what's been happening and what are the trends in publishing. I think things are definitely, unfortunately, trending away from increases, but there's a cycle to how so much of the things are going too. I think as long as the cycle continues to increase on the go around, when it waxes, there's still more, and when it wanes, there's still more. I think that the cycle will come back around. But it is hard work, and it takes not just the authors and the illustrators and the publishers creating, but people definitely coming out like the folks here are today and saying, oh, these stories are worthwhile. Let's support these folks and let's attend these events. Let's come to places like this incredible bookshop. My goodness, this is great. They're like fairy wings on the wall. And every kind of book that you can imagine, and it's just very special. And I think that's something that maybe we can remember too, is that this is really, really special. In a space where a lot of people maybe get used to these things, book bans can take away our, continued expectation that these things will exist. And that's scary, but even more of a reason to fight.
Yeah. is another wee question from Sasha, who says, do you think illustrators should try working with other stories first, or can we start with our own?
I think if you are early in your career and building your style and building your portfolio, it's actually very useful and very smart to start with other stories. I think, a common assignment in many illustration programs is to take a classic novel, like a classic story, like Peter Pan, and do your own version of the book cover of those illustrations. Because then you don't have, like, illustrating a story and writing a story at the same time is a complex thing because you are responsible for everything on the page. So I think as an illustrator, you can really build up your skills and figure out your desired process by working on other texts. But it doesn't have to be for everyone. You don't have to enter into the publishing industry and illustrate for other people. But for me, I do feel grateful to kind of switch it up. So these are a couple of books that I've illustrated written by other people. The first book I wrote and illustrated was the first in this series, The Little Leaders for Women in Black History. And it was a very big challenge to learn how to write a book and to illustrate a book at the same time. And then I got to sort of exercise different creative skills in illustrating someone else's story. This book is by the actress Lupita Nyong'o, which is an intimidating thing when everybody sort of knows her, and illustrating celebrity books can be an interesting challenge. But this is not a story I would have created, and it really pushed me to consider just different perspectives. For example, this scene. There's a story within a story. This young girl, Sulwe, starts to feel insecure about the color of her skin, and one night a star comes to her and takes her on this journey. And he tells her the story of night and day. In my first version of drawing night and day, I was thinking like, it would be so cool to emulate Kai Nielsen, one of these master illustrators. And I drew these, adult women in this sort of Kai Nielsen style, this sort of like early 20th century illustration style. And Lupita saw it and was like, oh, no. Night and Day are young. They're almost the same age as Sulwe's sister. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. Of course she would be, more affected by their tale when her sister becomes, is part of the source of her own insecurity. So there are things like that I wouldn't have pushed myself to think about or wouldn't have come across, and it took me into this whole other journey of understanding how to create these characters and studying textile designs to represent these characters. So things like that are so, I think, really useful for me and important in the sort of like creative journey. And this book, Hello Star, also a book about the stars, but this one is much more science and technology based, and it is a very wordy text that I could just illustrate everything that's on the page, but if the author's already saying it, maybe I can push myself to create more and illustrate the things that maybe our character would be feeling or seeing versus, explicitly following everything on the page. So I really pushed myself to make this story feel very dreamy and soft and light, because even though it is about a girl who grows up to become an astronaut, it really is about empathy. She sees this star in the night and asks her mother what it is, and her mother tells her it's a supernova. That means it's dying, and she feels so much care and love for this star that she wants to figure out a way to help it. And, you know, even though we have to say technically that star died 60 million years ago, that doesn't mean that that care and feeling isn't important for that child to have. So, yeah, I really wanted it to feel super soft, and I did these illustrations in colored pencil and then colored them digitally on top, and I was really proud of myself for finding a way to draw this, you know, explosion with colored pencil. So, yeah, I am very grateful to be able to work on projects that I would never create, and then this book. These are my 2 pandemic books. No one really So I think this one is so sweet, and it's just different ways to say I love you. And this was an interesting challenge because the text reads, I love you like yellow, I love you like green, like flowery orchid and sweet tangerine. I love you like silly, I love you like mad, like joyous and jolly, like silent and sad. I won't read the whole thing, but there's nowhere in that text does it say, so one day a mom and a young boy go to the park and it's raining, and then they go into the greenhouse and they see the orchids, and then they take a snack break and eat some tangerines. I really had to create a visual story that happens. And in one part, I was particularly proud of this one. It reads, I love you like stormy, like starry, like still. I've loved you forever, and forever I will. How do you draw forever? So what I drew was, I love you like stormy, so it's a rainy day. Dad and kid are in the city and it's raining outside. Like starry, like still, so they've left the city, they're gonna go stargazing. And then they see a mama bear and baby bear in the stars. I've loved you forever, and forever I will. So, yeah, very interesting challenges for illustrating sometimes. So, yeah, I have to flex those creative muscles every once in a while. So that's a lot of talking I did. I hope you enjoyed my drawing. I hope it's not sideways. It's a little squished sideways.
It's perfect.
Just look at it from the
She's
side.
perfect.
It's an optical illusion. You gotta look at it.
She's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you
so
all. Thank you for
much.
listening, and thank you for your questions.
If anyone wants to stick around, ask a question, get a book signed, please do that.
Thank you.
And this week's
yeah.
dream.
Can you buy the book then?
Yes, absolutely.
At some point she was.